Welcome to Her Remarkable History. Remember, to support our channel, please subscribe. Scold's Bridle, the horrific punishment for difficult women. Throughout the centuries, there have been many forms of punishments used which aimed to shame and humiliate someone. Some of these were much more painful and more serious than others. For example, women were forced under water using a ducking stool if they were suspected of witchcraft. This was so dangerous that a number of women died from the ordeal they suffered. Also, other ways of punishing individuals may be cutting the hands off a thief or putting them inside stocks or pillories to be subject to objects being thrown at them. But there was a form of punishment and public humiliation which was explicitly designed for women. And for women who were considered gossips or difficult, the Scold's Bridle was a horrendous iron muzzle that someone would have to wear for a long period of time, and this could be extremely painful. The Scold's Bridle, or the brand, was usually made from iron, and it enclosed the head, and the bridle part of the mask would be slid into the mouth of a woman, and this then pressed down on the top of the tongue. This could be very painful and would stop a woman from conversing or speaking effectively, and the aim of it was to silence the person wearing it from speaking, and also to inflict a significant amount of pain and psychological torture onto them. It was a form of torture also, and was used to force a woman to submit to rules inside of a town or settlement, and often the bridle part also had spikes inside which could pierce or stab holes into the tongue. It was mostly used on women whose husbands wished for them to wear it, and then this would be approved by the local authorities. It meant that the wearer could not speak for a number of hours, and sometimes days, and often they would experience excessive salivation from the mouth, and also tiredness in their mouth. Also, further steps could be taken to shame the woman, and sometimes bells were attached to the mast to attract a crowd to come and see, and the wearer was sometimes led around towns on a lead almost like a dog. It's shocking to consider that this was a common form of punishment, and it was first used around the 16th century in Scotland, and it's believed it could have been used earlier in England. Women who were considered to have been common scolds, nags or rude were placed into the bank, and it was also used for the women considered riotous or troublesome from the lower classes. In more serious cases, it was used on women who were suspected of being witches, but as it prevented speaking, it was also known as the gossip's bridle. Inside of female workhouses, often overseers would use it along with beatings, and it was very shameful. One record states, "If ever the said Elizabeth shall be found scolding or railing, she shall sit upon the throne in the rank and be banished from the town thereafter." There were accounts in Scotland of the device being also used on men. For example, it was said, "Patrick Pratt shall sit bound to the cross of this borough in the bank locked." The whole ordeal would be very traumatising for anyone, and the fact they could not speak was tiring, stressful, and also very traumatising. The sharp and coarse edges of the iron muzzle would also force many people to get severe cuts in their mouths and on their tongue, which would lead to bleeding and sometimes infection. And with this, the Scold's Bridle became a more serious device that could lead to death. It could also result in teeth being knocked out, and they would be displayed publicly sometimes inside of the device. In Scotland, the women or men could be attached to a town cross or toll booth, and then the public would throw things at them and would humiliate them. If someone was very disliked inside of a town, this could be dangerous, with stones being thrown. And the time spent in the device was usually dictated by the local magistrates in the area. It is claimed that the Scold's Bridle was even taken across to the New World, and it was said that some slaves in Virginia were forced to wear the device. There have been accounts of some slaves being forced to wear iron muzzles and similar devices to shame and enforce punishment. But over the years in Britain, there are many different examples of Scold's Bridles. For example, in 1567 in Scotland, Bessie Telfer slandered Bally Thomas Hunter in the Scottish capital of Edinburgh, saying that in his alehouse he was using false measures or watering down his ale that he was selling. Because of this, she was placed in the Scold's bridle and attached to the cross for an hour in shame. In London, there were a number of devices used in different places, and it was used not as commonly as the stocks or the pillory. One church was given one that said, "To curb women's tongues that talk too idle." But the Scold's bridle was a disturbing device which aimed to mostly punish women who were considered gossips, unruly, or difficult. This shows how they were to serve men, as their husbands could appeal to local magistrates to have their wives placed in the device, showing how strange society was at the time. It could be a very dangerous ordeal for the person inside of it, as many crowds would get carried away with humiliating them, and often they would sustain injuries from this too. The Scold's bridle was not something you wanted to experience. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe to Her Remarkable History. Thank you.